Welcome back to the Eye. With me is Chad Hutchinson, who's the Director of Research at Triest AG Group, and we're going to talk again about a serious problem. And Chad, talk to me a little bit about, product production and what the impact is on consumers, on growers, on packers, on retailers. How big of an issue is this?
Sure. So, you need to keep potato producers viable. In order to keep them viable and growing great potatoes, they need to produce enough quality crop to make money, not only for them, but to keep their community viable. And so there are products in the marketplace that work on different diseases that might limit quality or total yield in the field.
So if I'm understanding correctly, there could be a cure for a specific disease or problem, but that reduces yield.
Certainly. So I'll give you an example. A very serious disease that potato plants face in the field and really impacts yield and quality is called verticillium wilt or verticillium wilt complex. And what that disease does is attack potato roots. And when those roots are attacked and they're destroyed, that limits the amount of water that plant can take up. It limits the amount of nutrients that plant can take up. And it causes that plant to die early during the season.
So it's a poor quality plant and it dies.
It's a very weak plant. It's a very stressed plant during the season. So one can imagine that if you have a weak root system and then you have some environmental condition that plays havoc on the plant, such as maybe rainfall or lack of rainfall or really high temperatures, no root system to pull in nutrients and water, that plant collapses. If that plant collapses early in the season, that reduces total tonnage coming out of the field. That impacts quality, and it really hurts the bottom line of the farmers we depend on for quality product.
Sure. So, when you describe this, it makes me not want to be a potato farmer at all, because we've got this thing eating out at the roots. How prevalent is this? And what? How easy is it to solve?
Well, it is a worldwide problem, this particular disease, and there are the ability for a farmer to solve this problem is very limited. They have a couple of choices. They can either try to find ground that's never been planted to potatoes, which is getting more and more difficult as resources get tighter, or there are a few chemicals that can be used to suppress that disease in the soil and allow that crop then to grow normally.
So, needless to say, farmers know this, but soil health is critical to growing anything.
That's
right.
right.
And as we look at some of the new technologies that are coming out, and we've heard about the smart tractors and sensors in the ground and so on, do you think that we're getting close to having a better solution for soil health than we might have today or 10 years ago?
Oh, I absolutely think so. DNA technology, and this is really what's key to when you talk about soil health. When you think of soil health, you got to imagine that there are tens of thousands of different microorganisms that live in that soil and create a healthy soil. So when you're putting a chemical in the soil to control a disease, oftentimes that chemical can have negative effects on the beneficial organisms in the soil.
Sure.
So I think as we move forward in time, and DNA technology gets easier and easier to use. And cheaper. So with that DNA technology, we understand what's going on in the soil much better. I think every company that has a product that they want to put in the soil to help potato farmers is going to need to understand how that product not only impacts the growth of the crop and the quality of the crop, but also soil health. That's the direction we're moving into. And with this whole, blossoming of DNA technology, it's getting easier to understand that.
So I think for the average person, when they hear about DNA, they understand it for plants, they understand it, for animals and for people. But when it comes to soil,
Ah, yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's pretty hard to comprehend,
Yeah.
especially with the amount of microorganisms that you're talking about that are in that soil.
Absolutely, and there are more microorganisms in soil than soil itself, right? So that's the way you need to think about it. They fill every niche of that environment. You know, think about the ocean environment and how many organisms are in the ocean, or a desert environment, how many are in a desert. You need to begin to think of soil as its own environment and how those organisms all interact and interplay to help plants grow. And it's very important that we understand that, because food production is very important to us.
Absolutely, and um, I presume that the next issue is we really have to understand that soil is living and breathing,
Absolutely.
just the way we are or plants
Yeah.
are. That it's not just this, brown stuff that's just sitting there. That it has a lot of life.
That's
to it.
right. It respires. Just like we breathe, we take in oxygen and we exhale carbon dioxide. You can actually measure that same activity in a healthy soil and an unhealthy soil, and you can compare those readings and get an idea of how healthy a soil is based on how well it's breathing. So it's all about the organisms that are living underground, that are associating themselves with plant roots, that are helping those plants bring in nutrients, bring in water, and helping that plant stave off disease, become more vigorous, and to produce the food that we need.
So just the way our bodies, if we're strong, if we're fit, if we're healthy, we're not going to catch the flu as much. Same thing for soil. If it's, not healthy, it's going to catch a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and this might sound a little surprising, but plants have a very remedial immune system. And there are bacteria and fungi that live in the soil that, when they associate themselves with a plant root, they trigger that immune system. These are beneficial organisms. They're not disease-causing organisms. They're beneficial. They naturally associate with plant roots that trigger that plant's remedial immune system to help it ward off disease, not only underground, but above ground. It's incredible.
Chad, yeah. Thanks so much that you're expanding my horizons, everything. When I go home, I'm going to check my soil health.
I really
I'm gonna
appreciate
go
this opportunity.
pat it and say, how do you feel today? How do you feel today?
Yeah, you need to name a plot of land in your backyard.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much, Chad.
You.
I'm Phil Lempert. We're talking about bacteria, we're talking about soil health, we're talking about all the aspects that potato farmers, those growers, need to recognize for their future health. The health of the nation and the health of health and nutrition. This is the Eye at the Potato Expo, and we'll be right back.